Ladies and gentlemen, Tax Stories, the next podcast episode. My guest is Philippos Aristotelous. Welcome, Philippos, in Riga. We have not met in person, but we have recorded already podcast episode number 3. And now I have more than 90 episodes already. So welcome to the show and welcome to snowy Riga. Would you do some more introduction to yourself?
Thank you for the invitation. It's like a dream. It sounds very romantic, but I'm so happy to be here because we had some Zooms, conversations, many exchanges over the social media, but that we managed to meet physically here in the snowy Riga. Wow. I'm so excited. I cannot imagine. And that we are also going to do some programs together. That's like the cherry on the cake.
Absolutely.
So I'm Philippos Aristotelous. I'm a lawyer at heart. Since 2018, until 2018, I was a partner in the biggest law firm of Cyprus, Neocleus Law Firm. And after 2018, I decided to leave my position and to focus primarily in the professional development of law firms and lawyers. So I do consulting of law firms. I do seminars around mindset, business development, professional development, leadership, financial prosperity, how to charge, how to increase margins, how to come up with defensible pricing, defensible scoping, and defensible charges, better client service, better professional mindset, because by definition, the profession of the lawyer is a profession of prudence, and prudence is synonymous to looking for the problems, is synonymous to being over vigilant, over cautious, and over vigilance is what keeps people constantly ruminating, often having negative thoughts, overthinking what can go wrong for me, what can go wrong for my clients, not sleeping at night. So I try to combine an approach which helps lawyers be more robust and more resilient in how they do their work, but at the same time being happier, let's say, to the extent that lawyers can be happy. It's not an oxymoron. Servicing clients, servicing the firm, having more successful law firms, being more complete as professionals in terms of skill sets, not only doing the academic research or the legal research, but also getting out there, selling their services, making new connections, and finding more joy in this very difficult profession and in these very difficult and challenging and highly competitive times with legal tech, with the erosion of the appeal of tax benefits from where I come and where there are pressures, a lot of pressures on the professions. Lower fees because of AI, more efforts to comply with regulations, so more non-billable work, less billable work, less opportunities for high salaries for lawyers. So this is a cocktail of difficulties that requires a great mindset and the ability to not be disappointed easily and to be deterred from continuing on this ennobled path.
I feel we have a lot in common. You were head of tax in the largest Cyprus law firm. I am head of tax in the largest Latvian law firm. You left the firm. Do you have any regrets still that you could have stayed at the big law?
The version of myself back then did the right thing.
Yeah.
I believe that right now, the version of Philippos today, with the development that I did on myself, on how to deal with challenges, with difficult people, I believe, although it's a highly theoretical exercise, perhaps I would be able to cope with the challenges of the time, which in part led me to decide to leave, in a more mature, not mature, but in a more robust way. So perhaps I would, if I was the Philippos of today, I could perhaps have the tools to stay perhaps a bit longer. But with the maturity and the growth and the wisdom that I had at the time, I believe that it was the right decision. Does it make sense?
It does.
So we grow and we become wiser. I'm not regretting. I'm an adventurer, a curious adventurer, an explorer at heart. So I built many things since then that I'm very proud of. But I'm giving you a very honest response. So
you're here in cold Riga. How do you like it? What are your impressions of the city, of the country maybe, and of the business environment?
Well, it's a very picturesque location, freezing, everything is white, everything is still in a Christmassy apparel and clothing. I like there is a great aura of historicity I like the magnificent buildings that are here and the combination with the modern corporate spaces such as this firm. I told you I love this building. Your new offices are so impressive, minimal, clean, with all these special rooms you showed me for relaxation. So I love this combination of culture, of history here in Riga, and with the modern touches of the free market that has for sure infiltrated the Latvian cultural landscape. So it's I've only been here for a day, and I'm sure I will have the opportunity to see more. But I like the feeling so far. It's really good. It has nothing to do with Cyprus. It's such a hot summer, Mediterranean climate and vibe.
What's your impression of the Baltic business environment? Is it somehow different than European or the one in Cyprus? Have you had any connections with them?
Except with you, I don't think I had any substantial exposure. Perhaps with an Estonian firm I worked when I was back in the legal practice. I don't have a lot of experience, but I think it offers an interesting spin into the business climate. It's for example here in the vibe I get from your office is that it's a very professional firm, but the people are more humane. That's what I get than if I were to go to London or Paris. I have this feeling that you are more humane, less rigid. Maybe I will be proven wrong. I don't know.
No, let's see. We'll have a couple of days to prove you wrong.
Okay. You have a challenge now. You have a challenge to prove me wrong.
It's been, I think, 4 years since we met first time. So what has happened in your life since then?
So many things. 2020, it was in the COVID years. It was in August in the online seminar that we did. Well, since 2020, I've been slowly and gradually building my practice, trying to understand exactly where to steer my focus. I didn't detour that, took a few years away from law. I mentioned it briefly before. So although when I left the profession, I was primarily, as a partner, I was primarily dealing with lawyers, coaching lawyers, mentoring lawyers, doing seminars for lawyers. At some point, it was in the COVID year, I started veering outside the law firm space and developing programs also for, mainly because of my books, which are a bit generic in appeal, to other firms like logistics firms, data room centers, which have nothing to do with law firms, accountancy firms, which are closer to the tax law paradigm, even a soft drink factory in Cyprus. I did some leadership courses to them. Of course, some of the themes are common. I mean, it's the human condition. People are people wherever you go. In the law firms, in the soft drink factory, in the transportation business, driving lorries. I did some of those as well. Coaching drivers of transport companies. Many things are common. People want to be valued. They don't like to be denigrated, disrespected. They always compare themselves to others in their position. Wherever you is a law firm, is in the logistics company, you have the same things. People want to be valued. People want to be seen. People feel envy. People feel injustice. People want to grow, or at least most of people want to grow, because when you grow, you are more likely to feel appreciated. You are more likely to feel worthy, useful. Okay. You have exceptions, of course, people who are attached to victim mindsets. They don't want to grow because they get attached to the idea of calling for help. But these are different cases. So I see that as well, people who are locked in that passive victim mindset. Other than that, people are the same everywhere, I think. And so after I veered outside the legal industry for a few years, more than a few years actually, it was until mid 2025, and my client base became much more exotic, so to speak, not plain vanilla law firms. I decided that I lost my focus, because when you are aiming, well, look, if you are a hunter, I don't know if you're a hunter, I'm not a hunter, but I hear from friends, it's good to have you cannot be a hunter of everything. You can be a hunter of birds. You can be a hunter of wild hogs. You can be a hunter of whatever. But you cannot be a hunter of everything. It's good to have a target. And I decided that I lost my focus, and my ideal client became very fuzzy and cloudy. Everyone is my ideal client. I mean, and it became very difficult for me to do business development and to do content online to target my ideal clients. And let's face it, I am a lawyer at heart. So the people I understand more and the people who understand me the best are lawyers, perhaps also accountants and professionals. So I decided in the mid 2025 that I was going to return back to law. And I even made a post on LinkedIn. I said, guys, I'm quitting, trying to attract other firms. I enjoyed working with them. I'm richer now in terms of experience and more wealthy in terms of the information that I accumulated. So since the middle of 2025, I've been targeting only law firms in Cyprus and abroad. And one particular aspect of law firms in Cyprus that is of interest to me and because of the point in time that we inhabit in Cyprus, is family succession issues of law firms. So successors who are actually second or often third generation, but mostly second, I would say, who are now running the show, where the founder is either on the way out or have passed away, and they have to deal with the pressures and the challenges of turning the page and placing their own DNA on the firm, placing their own idiosyncrasies and values and personalities.
Within law firm, yeah.
Yes, so Cyprus has many, let's say, small to medium law firms, around 10 to 20 people. Quite a few of them are like family. I would say the vast majority are family law firms.
Mm-hmm.
And the successors there are sandwiched between the vision of the founder and the founder who was also more gracious and more laid back and more and less obsessed with numbers and with procedures and with systems. And the challenges of the new day and age, when you have the Gen Z lawyers whose attention span is really low, who are very difficult to communicate with, where the retention of them is like maximum 3 years, whereas in the past it was 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the successors now have to navigate the intergenerational challenges. They also have to earn the respect of the firm, because the firm is looking at them with one eye and with the second eye to the founder, feeling that the kid will quit at some will fail, and why should we listen to the kid today? Because so and they go and they sidestep and they go to the founder, and the founder, because he is kind, some of the time he does not support the successors as much as the successors wanted to do. The successors having a more modern mindset, they want to introduce timesheets, they want to introduce KPIs, goals, but the people are pushing back, saying that you are eroding our autonomy and that the founder wanted us to feel free. But if you continue with the founder's paradigm, you will go bust, basically, because times have changed.
So you're saying that in Cyprus, normally law firms don't have timesheets or time recording?
I will tell you how it goes. And maybe you can tell me as well. I asked you, I think, yesterday. So the situation, because I also have a few consulting projects now, and I'm on the verge of whether to recommend timesheets or not. In my experience, we were all doing timesheets. All. Yeah. Litigation, not litigation. And litigation and property in Cyprus, the thing is that they mostly work with fixed fees, with the exception of some one-off deals that may come. Like if you have a big litigation case that is out of scope, is urgent, and you want to go to apply to court for freezing orders, for example, urgently, you can give a fee code. You can also work on hourly rates. But most cases in litigation are done on the basis of court stipulated scales. So you have I don't know how it's here. You have a menu of charges that is by the Supreme Court of Cyprus, saying that for a case between 2,000 and 10,000 claim, you should charge a minimum of, let's say, €300 per letter. I'm just throwing an idea. Yeah. So you have a specific menu of fixed charges that litigation often applies. So the timesheets there only apply for internal reporting. You see, because they don't care about showing analytical statements to most clients, except in the rare cases that they agree to do hourly rates. The property also in Cyprus, when the property lawyer works on a transaction, on a conveyancing transaction, most often than not, it's a fixed fee. Let's say 0.5 to 1% on average, but it can vary. So again, the property lawyers are saying, why should I spend time also doing timesheets? I'm doing a fixed fee.
Yeah.
You see, the answer is clear. The answer is, okay, timesheets have two main missions. The first one is a client being able to defensively and confidently and correctly charge so that the client can pay you. And if the client has questions, they can see the work you did and the wording and the explanations. That's the one, I think, I don't know if you agree with me, the first point of having timesheets. But the second point of timesheets is internal reporting, to know who is productive, who is not productive, which clients are wasting too much time questioning fees and calling all the time, which lawyers cannot place boundaries, which lawyers are not persuasive enough when it comes to charging, collecting, billing, scoping, pricing. So I find that timesheets are very useful for both purposes or even only for internal. Now, what happens in Cyprus is your question. What happens in Cyprus is that most law firms do not apply timesheets. The big law firms for example, my former employer, everyone applies timesheets. I was applying timesheets to the extent that I made it an art. I think that I was really good because of I could generate a lot of fees and defensively. I think that there is an art there, how you describe your work, how you describe the value of your work versus simply using suboptimal wording like sending email. Compare sending email to engaging in client consultation with Yannis on mitigating the task risk in the new SPA deal discussed with XYZ firm. I mean, it's the same thing, but the first one is admin. The second one is okay, is shifting the risk between two contracting parties. So there you can elevate and you can increase the appeal of the value that you give and charge more. Okay.
But you're saying that still many firms don't use timesheets.
Most of them don't.
Most.
The ones that they do, aside of my former employer and perhaps a couple of other firms who are very professionalized and they try to do everything in a correct professional way. The ones that they do, they only do it for the commercial and the commercial department, I would say, which has where the fees are not dependent on the court's scales. There is no fixed fee to do, and they do timesheets so as to calculate. And litigation, most often than not, they don't, because they have these things with the fixed fees and because there is more pushback from litigators in terms of they feel that they are controlled, they are not trusted, they are not. It's a strange jurisdiction, Cyprus.
So litigators, they charge according to the scale?
Primarily.
What is determined by the court, yeah?
The Supreme Court.
Yes.
So there are scales. Should I tell you?
Yeah, go on.
Because, look, the lawyer is bound by professional conduct rules. One of the rules is that they have a duty of care to do a proper job and to deliver justice or to serve justice, right? So they have to, my understanding, at least in part, is that they have to be protected in terms of the minimum fees they can charge so as to do a decent job. So the system of justice comes and says, for this, to send a letter to Yannis to begin the court process for a claim which is between 2 to 10,000, a small claim, you should charge a minimum of €100, for example. So it gives you that as an indication and also as a minimum fee that you should charge. And in case you win the case, so I bring an action against you, I win, then the court will also sanction the payment of those minimum fees to me. So that the philosophy is that the court came up with these scales to ensure that there is a minimum fee for lawyers to do their jobs without being the quality of the work being compromised. So that the duty of care is preserved, so that justice is delivered. And the majority of cases, I think, in Cyprus, the majority of litigation lawyers rely on so the majority of litigation lawyers, in the majority of litigation cases, rely on the fixed scales. It's like a menu. You see, what the claim is €10,000. You have the scales for 10,000. If it's a claim is for $1 million, the fees are higher. You see, the higher the claim of the lawsuit, the higher the scale of the fees. But the items are the same, like drafting pleadings, drafting the statement of defense, cross-examining the witnesses. These are like a menu with scales. So because of the scales, it doesn't make sense to them, they say, to have timesheets because the timesheets don't matter.
Yeah.
Although
You're charging fixed fee anyway,
but they do matter for productivity.
Yeah.
You see, they do matter for the firm to see how time is spent. Because maybe you spend 10 minutes and you charge 2,000. What do you do the other 7 hours and 50 minutes a day? You see what I mean? So the time should also help the firm monitor. But because the lawyers feel that they will be monitored, they have this thing, no, you don't trust us. Sorry, I will leave. I don't accept. You have this pushback.
Yeah.
And I don't know how your people are here, but in Cyprus they feel like you are eroding their autonomy and their freedom and their creative freedom. You see, with these control systems. I don't know how
I feel that of course we also have those timesheets and time recording, but I feel that the future is in giving up the time recording.
Giving up.
Yes, because I feel that the lawyers hate it.
So it's your case too. They hate it.
I hate it too.
Okay.
And
tell me, I want to know. Yes.
And I think there are other ways how to basically monitor the colleagues if they are productive or not, and of course the matter. What really matters is money in your account at the end of the day.
Yes, you are absolutely correct.
And then you basically with low gearing you can basically feel who is performing and who is not. But we also have these scales in the court, but
you
those,
have them, huh?
yes, but not exactly like you described it, but
the menu.
But they are normally very low fees, so that it doesn't really reflect what the client is paying for the particular work. So in your case, I understand it does reflect basically to what client pays.
Listen, what happens is that the fees depend on the value of the claim, and if the value of the claim is high, it's okay. It's quite okay. It's quite generous. But if the value of the claim is low, it doesn't worth your time. I think. Except if you are if you are in a new firm and you want to establish yourself, it depends on the value of the claim. Surely, in the case of cases which are very high in value, you can apply a fee that is outside the scales. So the law firm is not bound by the scales. So it's a binary thing. You tick whether you apply the scales or not. So if you apply the scales, okay, you are legitimately applying them, and the court will enforce them. If you don't apply them, you click a different box in the pleadings where you say, I don't apply the scales, and there you can apply a much bigger fee. If they come to you and there is a huge dispute and you want to apply a much higher fee, you can do it.
Okay.
You are not bound to the scales.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's not spend the whole podcast
on the scales,
on the scales and pricing. One thing I wanted to talk about is your book about happiness.
Okay.
The Marvel of Happiness, and I love the book. I've read it some parts many times. But I also want to ask about where we left the previous podcast with a thought that it's important for you as a personality to cancel the noise around you. How do you manage to do that? Are you successful in that?
This is part of the seminar we discussed about, and I will be doing in a few days. The noise, we talked about the noise in terms of the things that are happening that are pulling our attention. Do you remember what we said? This is what we said.
Yeah, well, we were at the end of the last podcast. We were speaking about your version of meaning of life, and then basically you said it's important to concentrate on what's important and then to sort of get rid of all the rest.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Okay. I think the second edition to the book is much closer to how I feel today than the first one. I believe that the right way to approach life, at least in my case, is to have an overarching mission. So an overarching direction. Okay, you know where you want to be going, professionally and personally. And everything else that you do is in service of that overarching mission. I can give you an example. Okay, it's also in the book, in the values chapter. So you are prevailing or primary, let me call it primary mission, could be to be a good caregiver for your family. Okay, so that's at the pinnacle of my mission, let's say, to be a good caregiver for your family and a productive citizen. That could be it. So you see, the productive citizen has subcategories. For example, you can be a lawyer, tax lawyer, that is a healthy part of a firm like you. Okay, so that's the productive part. You are also doing your podcast, so you are disseminating information that you collect, that you realize, that you find with the people that you care about, which goes to the citizenry aspect. The citizenry has to do with the tribe, with the people, with the city, but not the city in the narrow sense, with the group of people that you are improving with your mission. Everything else is noise. You cannot, or perhaps you should not, try to be everything for everyone. You don't have the energy or the resources anyway to do it. So the key question, Yanis, is we have a certain limited capacity and attention and energy. Where should we channel it? See, where should we invest and divert our energy, our capacity, and our attention? What is the attentional priority? What is our attentional priority? Okay, you wake up in the morning. Where do you invest your attention, your energy, and your capacity? I gave you an idea. You can be the pinnacle of the attentional priority can be your family, let's say. And then it can be your career. Or it can be the other way around. I don't know. It depends on the person. Or maybe they can both be at the top. Everything else should be in service of those ultimate values or goals. That's how you economize. You economize on your attention, capacity, and energy. Because otherwise, you will be. Otherwise, the world is too chaotic. Is too synthetic. It's to reduce. Okay, a chief purpose of a human being is to reduce the noise and the chaos of multiple possibilities. So you wake up in the morning, and unless you have something to anchor your attention, your energy, and your capacity, you can drown into the multiple possibilities offered to you by the day, which can create anxiety, analysis paralysis. Which way do I go? What is more important than else? So by deciding and choosing that, okay, I am deciding that for me, it's the family and the work. And the family is a specific family, or it can be, I don't know, something else, and my work. Everything else, then you can let die, and you sacrifice everything else. And everything else falls within the definition of noise in that respect. I don't know.
In the book, you are quoting many Stoics, so that I feel also from what you're saying, this close philosophy to your heart. Yeah. So, do you have any techniques to cancel the noise, like meditation, or you were quoting this the secret book? How
I'm quoting many books.
Yeah.
It's a book of books in a sense, this one. There is also the final part of the meaning chapter. It's called Transcending All Illusions. And it's about precisely being able to step out of the noise of the mind and seeing with more clarity and distance. So the ability to step out of the noise of the mind. The mind is a prediction machine. The mind's mission is to help us feel safe, trying to predict where there are dangers, holes, looming catastrophes. So that's what the mind tries to do. Then a way to do it is by anchoring ourselves in the body. So the way to save yourself from the noise of the mind is to employ the body. And how do you employ the body? By breathing. For example, breathing employs the body. You employ the lungs, you employ your mouth, your nostrils, your belly. So the noise, in part, is what we call analysis paralysis. You get drowned in your thoughts, everyday thoughts. Okay, deadlines, a mistake at work, a mistake of the technical equipment, problem at home, problem with the neighbor. The neighbor is violating your border, and things coming up all the time about how to deal with problems, what these problems mean about me. Am I not able to solve problems? The mind then becomes self-referential. If you don't engage in the body, okay, if you don't employ the body, and I'll give you some ideas, then the mind will start ruminating, and it will often gravitate towards self-referential thoughts. I say often because it also depends on the idiosyncrasy and the personality. So there are people who are more stressful, more neurotic than others. We are all stressful people, but some people are more easily stressed. So when you leave the mind will tend to draw all concerns into the space of self-referential thoughts. What are self-referential thoughts? Are thoughts about how good I am at dealing with things, how worthy I am. So how good I am at dealing with things. Let's say that I have a problem at work. A colleague is not performing well. Okay, and I feel that I cannot do something about it. I give feedback. I try to solve the problem. They do not listen to my advice. Then the mind will start shifting from the colleague who is not doing well, okay, and what can I do to solve these situations? Will often shift back, and it will think about myself. Maybe I'm the type of person that is not good with solving people problems. You see, it's about me, self-referential. Then it will go even further. Maybe I am not strong enough. Maybe I'm weak as a person. And then you start thinking, but I was always weak. I was weak at school as well. And that's the problem with allowing the mind to travel on its own. It will tend to focus on you at the end and try to bring out things, flaws of character, weaknesses, and these things. And this creates noise. So how do you resolve this situation? You step in the body. The human being inhabits two domains at the same time: the domain of thought and the domain of matter. Thought and matter. When you think, you don't employ the body. Thoughts surface in the theater of your imagination. Some of them you pursue them. I would say most of them surface on their own. You don't do something. But that, I would say, that falls within the domain of the mind. Now, the domain of matter is the domain of the body. Thoughts do not employ the body, but words employ the body. You see the difference? Because words employ the vocal cords. They avoid your chest. They employ your chest. They employ your mouth. They employ your tongue. They employ your larynx. So when you want to break the noise, you have to employ the body. Meditators do it through the breathing exercises, okay? By mindful exercises whereby you feel, you smell, you employ the senses of the body, okay? You may light a candle and try to smell on the candle. You may try to bring your attention to the body, the sensations of the body. So one of the ways to break the rumination and the tormenting thoughts that sometimes the mind generates is by employing the body. So if we have a problem between us, okay, and I keep thinking about the problem, I will not solve the problem. I may even think of what to tell you to solve the problem. If I say those words to you, however, because I employ the body, it's easier to solve the problem. It's easier to avoid the tormenting activities of the mind. I don't know if I have lost you.
Not yet, but I understand that you still do meditate, yeah?
I try to.
Okay.
Not as often as I did before, but I try to. But what I always try to do is to, and I do it in the seminars as well, I try to see my mind as a device. The problem with the mind is that sometimes we identify too closely with it. Okay? So once you understand that the mind is trying to protect you, and it sometimes overanalyzes and catastrophizes in terms of what may happen next, and you step out and you simply recognize that this is what the mind does to keep me safe, then that can help you feel more relaxed. So you do a step out and you observe your mind instead of being drowning in it. And you say, that's my mind stressing about the podcast with Yanis, if I'm going to say something stupid, if I'm going to say something. You see, you step out of your mind. That's the Buddhist paradigm. Okay, that the non-attachment, not detachment. Detachment as a word implies violence. Detachment implies violence. I think the Buddhistic paradigm is non-attachment. So you step outside of the mind and you try to see yourself from a different optics, like an outsider, like an observer, observing yourself, observing your stress, observing what causes you to stress.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to avoid the noise, by stepping out of it and observing as a third-party observer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the...
If we look at your book, is overall happiness an illusion, or that's something we experience in brief moments in our life? What would be your brief summary of this? Are we like running after chasing a star we will never catch completely?
You know that the first edition was 30% smaller than the second edition.
Yeah.
I think that answers in part in that. I've also evolved my approach and my opinion on the matter. Look, I think you have to start from somewhere. The starting point is that people dread being alone and lonely. Okay, that's the starting point. That people, some psychoanalysts, I think like the French Lacan and some others, if I'm not mistaken, they say that the biggest void in the life of a human being is a separation from the mother. Because when you are in the womb, you are completely happy, content. You have everything. You have protection, you have food, you have shelter. So, okay, I'm not saying that's correct, but that's one way to look at the whole thing. So the moment that your mother gives birth to you and you separate physically and metaphorically the umbilical cord, bam, separation begins. And this is the first point in time where you separate from wholeness, okay? Because your tenure in the womb of your mother is simply is the only phase in time where you are one with the whole. So from the moment you get separated, you have this void that you lost when you separated, that you can never, according to psychoanalysts or some of them, you can never fulfill. Hence, what you mentioned before about our constant yearning to be validated, to get more, to become more important, more useful, more needed. It's to fill that void that was opened when we came into the world. So my idea is that because we are highly social beings and we always have at the back of our minds, we always have the question: are we firmly embedded within the group? Are we firmly embraced by the people around us? Whatever the group is, the group can be your family, can be you and your spouse, can be your firm, your team, your football team. There are teams and teams of teams. There are nested teams, your city, your country, whatever. So we always have on the back of our mind this looming thought: are we firmly integrated within the firm? Are we valued enough? Do people look out for us when we are missing? If I go missing tomorrow, will somebody feel my absence? Will somebody look for me? So you start thinking, how can I be useful? How can I be productive? How can I be helpful to others, to people? How can I be a healthy cell of this organization we call life? That's my starting point. Maybe it's also relevant to what I told you before with the psychoanalysis. So that's the big void that we have, is our constant preoccupation with being valued as members of groups.
My brief summary of
Yes.
what I heard is that through, for example, for myself, through meditations or whatever techniques you are using, I should try to cancel all the noise and focus on what's important for me. And then during the normal course of actions, I will step from time to time on some brief experiences of happiness throughout the journey. So basically, when I meet you, when I yesterday I met a member of the parliament who was willing to talk about some taxation matters that could be implemented, and I felt, oh, it's very nice that she came to speak with me, and I felt useful. So these are like brief moments in your life when you sort of feel happy.
You're absolutely correct. And there is this antithesis, this conflict, I would say, because, and there are two schools of thoughts, okay? There are people who say that the primary purpose of human beings is joy. So it's a positive emotion, positive affect, so feeling joyful. And meditation often allows you to enter that state of joy, that the immediate joy, which has nothing to do with status or success or progress or usefulness. So that meditation, especially for the Eastern source of meditation, is about exactly stepping out of this game that we all play, this game of status, because it's a game. And feeling joy wherever you are, feeling joy, being aligned with the whole. So it's a way back to the whole that I mentioned before, that you separate from when you come out of the womb of the mother. So meditation for some people, and I've experienced it as well, is when you manage to escape this game of status, which is a mental game, it's a cognitive game. This constant comparison with others, how am I doing, how am I performing, and you feel joy, you instantly feel joy. Because at the end of the day, I think part of our suffering is due to our thoughts, and basically the whole world is made of thoughts, if you think about it, and fictions. It's what Harari speaks about, that the whole world is made of fictions. And what are fictions? Fictions are products of collective thoughts. What is the law? The law is a collective fiction. It's real enough to have consequences, but it's a collective fiction. I cannot enter your office without an invitation. Why? It's just bricks, and why can I not step from point A to point B? Because there is a law which says that you're breaking entry and you are intruding, right? So it's a fiction, but if I break into your office, the police people will throw me in jail, and I will realize that it has real consequences. Money is a fiction too. Money is a fiction. But if you steal money, you go to jail. So it has a real... So what I mean is that the whole world, countries are also fictions. I mean, the border, think of the border. You have Latvia and on the Estonia
and Lithuania.
Yeah,
and
so you have...
In the east, it's Big Brother.
Yeah, so exactly. So look at the war now with Ukraine. So the border, the countries, the nations are also fictions. I mean, the people exist, but so you cross without an immigration permit the line, which is a line that some people drew on a map, and you get arrested and thrown to jail. Anyway, the whole world, just to summarize, is a web of fictions that produce real consequences. Okay, so we are all entangled in this web of fictions, multiple fictions, laws, money, roles, spouse, partner, consultant, neighbor, I'm your neighbor. So all these roles and institutions are mental constructs. That's why we keep we keep thinking all the time, because these are all things which do not exist in a specific form. They are things that consume all of our thoughts and energy. So the meditation often helps you step outside the mental clutter and touch base with the wholeness or the unity that exists, they say. It comes from the East, because, sorry for interrupting you, you have the clash between it's a religious clash as well, because the East primarily worshipped nature. You had the idea of the feminine divinity. Okay, so the Eastern meditators used to say that when you exit the mind, and the mind is the mind and is mostly the masculine activity. Okay, the mind is in terms of symbolism and psychology, whereas the body is mostly aligned with the feminine activity. So the Eastern people used to say that you have to escape the mind to get in touch with life, with the earth, with the whole, with the universe. So it's because they used to worship nature mostly. Whereas the Christian world, you have the Yahweh, who is the Old Testament God, who created the world, so who created nature, who created the feminine. You see, it's the patriarchal approach, and using the mind, using the logos. So the Christian God basically spoke in the word and created the world. So he used the mind, the masculine. So in our world, the masculine created the feminine. That's why we all worship the mind. We all worship the use of the mind to the detriment or to the discounting of the body. Too many things. I'm opening too many chapters here. That's why in the West we are obsessed with the mind and the science. Science is a product of cognitive effort. The mind. But the mind can get you crazy, and we lost touch with the body. The body can be breathing, it can be meditation, it can be whatever. It is a massage, it can be swimming, working out. So it's very important to have one foot firmly planted in the body, in the material world, to be anchored in the material world.
Do you think the pursuit for inner peace goes in the same direction as pursuit for happiness?
There are semantics here as well. Because if you ask me what do you mean by happiness, I can tell you have to read the whole book. So happiness and inner peace. Inner peace is, I would say, you can say they are very similar. Very similar. Inner peace, tranquility, the avoidance of disturbance, the avoidance of suffering, basically. But in the world that we inhabit, because we value progress and success so much, so we value status, whether or not we call it status. Status means standing, standing in a social group, the position in a social group. Because we value status so much, and because the group values status so much, this is at odds with the simple idea that inner peace is sufficient. I would say perhaps it is, but it's not compatible with the Western way of life, which is always about, the fundamental paradigm in the Western world is the hero's quest, the fundamental myth, the fundamental trope that we all admire. A hero can be anyone, can be a sportsman, can be a member of the parliament that is doing something important. The hero is not something specific. The hero is an archetype that is expressed in different contexts. So the hero can be Yanis, who is doing a podcast that can change things. A hero can be your colleague who went to the tax court and won a case against a penalty, against the fine against a board member. So a hero can be a footballer, can be anyone, can be a person who went from rags to riches, and he made it, from a poor family, and he made it. So, but in general, because in the West we admire and we worship the idea of the hero. I don't know if you agree with me. This idea that people have to struggle, have to go through trials and tribulations, they have to overcome challenges, and then they make it. This is a primary, it's the American dream. It's a primary mode of being or pattern that is worshipped, that is admired in the West. So that is difficult to reconcile with the, I would say, Eastern idea of pure joy, and that you can be happy where you are with what you have without material luxuries and everything. You see, these two ideas are in conflict. The idea that, and they also touch on what I said before, that because we are social beings and we want to feel that we belong, we want to feel that we are valued at work, at home, okay? We want to feel that we are useful. How can you feel useful and valued and necessary and needed if you don't engage into this pathway of struggling, improving, getting better, and getting more important, getting more successful and admired? So there is, to finalize my rant, I think there is an implicit conflict between the idea of pursuing pure and unadulterated inner peace, that is primarily the Eastern mindset, which is aligned with what I said before, the more feminine ideas of divinity, enjoying life as it is, and the Western mode of being, or the Western paradigm and mode of being that admires and worships in part the heroic pursuit, which is about struggle, effort, suffering, overcoming difficulties, and this thing. Do you see this conflict?
Yeah, absolutely. I really feel what you're saying. But to finish the part about your book on happiness, I wanted to ask, do you remember, is there a story in the book that always pops up in your mind, or maybe there's another book or author that basically helps you as a guideline for your life?
One of the quotes that I use often and that I find that they are really helpful is not a story, it's a quote. There are many stories that stuck with me, is the idea that, and it goes back to the body versus mind competition, that when something happens to you and you need to take action, something unexpected, instead of focusing on what you should be doing, you should focus on what you could be doing right away. So let me give you an example. You're driving on the runway, okay? You're driving, going home, and you see an accident. A motorcycle collides with a car, and you're going home. If you start thinking, what should I be doing? The should opens up an ethical and idealistic version of what's the perfect thing I should be doing about what just happened. What's the perfect? Should I get off, do CPR? Should I? What should I do? Should I go and take the victim to the hospital myself? Should I go and take pictures? You see, if you start thinking about what's the perfect thing to do when something happens, this can lead you into analysis paralysis, and at the end you may do nothing. So instead of thinking about what you should be doing, you should think about what you could do right away, which narrows your focus, on actionable things, on the minimum units of action. So that's actually something that I talk about in my seminars too. So what could I do right now? I call 191, for example, 199. It's an action that you can take right away. You can. So you could call. Or maybe you could say, I'm going to stop my car and just go and ask this person, are you okay? So you shift your focus from should to could. What can I do actually right now? What's the minimum unit of action? So you see, I'm employing the body. Remember what I said before? You escape the multiplicity of possibilities that the mind is projecting. That's very helpful. So the move to the could, the shifting to the could from the should. There is also a very nice story in the book that I used in the second edition that I like a lot. I don't know if you know about it. There is this idea that a monk, untied his boat and he sailed in the middle of a serene lake. Complete serenity, no one there, you could hear the birds. And he just wanted to meditate, since you mentioned about meditation. So he was in the middle of the lake, in the middle of his small boat, with his rope, meditating, closed his eyes and meditating. So at some point, he felt a very strong heat on his boat, obviously by another boat. So another boat bumped onto his boat. So furious, he opened his eyes and he was ready to start swearing at the other captain, And he looked around, he almost started swearing and he saw that it was an empty boat. So the boat that bumped onto his boat was an empty boat that got unmoored from the harbor, from the, how do you say that? It got untied by the wind, and it simply drifted and bumped onto his boat and woke him up. But the monk realized that he was 100% sure that somebody did this to him, and he turned to fight, and there was no one. And this story shows how the mind works, basically, that the mind always, what we react is not the person opposite us. What we react is more often than not the image that we constructed in our minds. That monk immediately constructed the image of a careless captain who bumped into his boat. You see, the mind will always react not to the person in front of you, but to the image that the mind has constructed. Is the prejudice, is the idea that the mind always, and the meditation can help you see that. So when I go to see Yannis today to have this podcast, how can I see Yannis with fresh eyes, without the burden of my own baggage as to who I think Yannis is? You see what I mean? And more often than not, I think we don't meet people with fresh eyes. We meet the versions of the people that our mind has constructed, and that's not ideal, because the person may have changed from the version that our mind has constructed. So that's I don't know if it's a helpful story.
I already see some accusations I sometimes do towards my spouse.
Yes, but those people are so close to us that it's the most difficult thing, isn't it, to break free from the image, from the idea. So it's your spouse, and it's also the idea of your spouse that you built in your mind. My spouse is A, B, C. The same with me. It's A and B, C. So when we encounter them physically, between our physical presence, we have the veil of the ideas that are projected by the mind. And I have to tell you how many times I was wrong about, for example, I'm going to meet my wife now, and because this happened in the morning, for example, we had a fight in the morning, Right now, my wife will be angry. And I went there with this preoccupation. And it didn't happen. So I think the key is to be able to see the world with fresh eyes, because what we see is the past, is not the future. When I look at you, is Yanis, whom I have met, and I look at the picture of you that my mind built through past impressions and experiences. That's how the mind works. It works on the basis of constructions made from past interactions, by definition, because we haven't lived in the future. But the big challenge is to try to see the other person with fresh eyes, as if we don't know them. Not to be limited by your experiences with them and your definitions. Try to see, maybe you will see something that you don't know, or you see what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great recommendation.
So difficult though.
Yes. And for my bookshelf, do you have any new recommendations? What you've read before and that has made a big impression on your life?
Surprisingly enough, one of the books that I can tell you many books, it depends on the category, but one of the books that I thought would be, because it was a very commercial book, Atomic Habits by, yes, and it's in I mentioned it here too, in the second edition. When a book becomes a blockbuster, I have this prejudice that, if it's so popular, maybe it's not something really deep, something which is wrong, completely wrong, because it means that I don't respect those who buy them. But that book actually is really good for the Western world. Do you have it, Atomic Habits?
Yes.
So it's good because it touches on an idea that is very fond with me. The idea that we mentioned before as to what value you place on the top of your pyramid. Okay, so the idea that when you choose your identity instead of choosing your habits, when you choose who you want to be in the world, at least in the Western world, then it becomes clear what your goals and your habits should be. So instead of choosing the habits randomly and choosing the goals randomly and choosing the things, you choose what you want to be. For example, if I say that I am a runner, I'm a runner who jogs, I'm a runner. Okay, that's an identity declaration. Then if you say I'm a runner, then you start thinking in terms of what do runners do? What's the habits of a runner? You eat healthily, you exercise, you buy the proper clothes, whatever. If you say that I'm a good spouse, I want to be a good spouse, that's an identity-based goal. So if you focus on who you want to be instead of what you want to do, then it's easier to find out what you have to do to set goals. As long as you mean it. So you want to be a great podcast host, for example. That's an identity-based goal. Whereas I want to do podcasts, it's an action-predicated goal. You see what I mean? I am Yanis, and I want to be the most successful podcast host in Latvia, for example, or in the Baltics. Then you start thinking in terms of what do the most successful podcast hosts do, and you start, watching Joe Rogan, watching David Bartlett. So one of the greatest things about that book is this shift from goals to identity. You choose your identity first, and then your goals follow naturally. So Atomic Habits is a great book. Some of the great spiritual books, since you mentioned meditation, are obviously Eckhart Tolle's books are really good. The New Earth, what's the first one? The Power of Now. Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul is really good. His book The Surrender Experience is also a great adventure. If you like these books with synchronicities, going with the flow. Amazing books. So actually, he almost ended up in jail, this guy, Michael Singer.
What?
Because he was going with the flow too much.
Okay.
At some point, he built a big IT company that went public, and he followed some wrong advice, he says in the book, and he almost got in trouble with the financial services authorities in the US.
Okay.
But this is also a great book, Michael Singer's. So Michael Singer's books are really good. He's a great writer. With so many books, what other books can I tell you?
Yeah. I think it's already enough for a while. Then we can chat some more.
If you want tax books also, I'm a bit out of date with tax books.
Yeah. You mentioned keyword, which is also quite important about values. And how do you see values changing in this disruptive world? Where basically I can see that many firms are still, for example, in the Western Europe, cooperating with Russia and prefer money over values, and we can see that every day in the news what's happening. So, do you see that values are changing nowadays?
I don't think that values are changing, but I think because of the power of media and social media, there is a shift. There is a shift in what values are emphasized more. So the values are pretty much the same. And I'm not speaking so much about ethical values. I'm talking about the things that people consider important. When I speak about values, and maybe some people disagree, I mostly speak about the priority of importance. What people think is more important than others. So you have the pinnacle. What's the most important thing in the world, for example? Then less important. So I think of values in terms of importance, because you have values and you have virtues. Virtues are a way how to live in a proper and virtuous way. You have principles. Principles are more, they have a more ethical color in them. And values. Well, in today's world, which is really super amplified by social media and the shorts economy and the reels economy, we see that there is a lot of pretense around virtue. I would say that we see a lot of trumpeting of virtue in the social media, of people who like to present themselves as activists, as moral heroes, as but I think the values are pretty much the same. The values are, in the West at least, are always about the Western values that are always in fashion are power, competence, influence, and status. I think these are as raw and as undecorated as it sounds, it's the same. The values in the West are these, peppered with compassion and the sympathy for the poor.
But still, I see in the everyday life, if we stick with what has changed since we met last time, is the war in Ukraine, and still I see so many companies staying in Russia and preferring money or even sometimes greed over values. What is it? Why they are doing this?
Western companies
Yes.
You mean okay, now I understand. I went on a different road before. So you mean you have the sanctions against Russia, and you have people who comply with the sanctions, and you have people who chose not to comply and to stay in Russia to keep profiting from the. Is it correct?
Yes, or even there are no sanctions, but
Okay.
it's a question of morality. Do you
Yes.
want to support
I
a
get it.
country which is aggressively attacking independent nation?
I get it. Now I get it. So even if there are no sanctions, out of principle, many companies decided to leave Russia. They were not forced to, and others simply decided to stay, right? Okay, I think that, again, it's down, in my mind, maybe I'm wrong, it boils down to economics. So firstly, you choose what is the best for you in terms of economics, power, influence, appeal, and then you rationalize. Rationalize. Wow. You see how my mind thinks? That's how my mind thinks.
Tricky word.
Rationalize. So what I mean is that if a company, okay, I am prone to think that human beings are more tilted towards their self-interest than towards the collective good. That's maybe the average person is this. If you are a very mature person and a wise person that balances the two, so my self-interest and your self-interest, okay, there are some people as well as that, but there is always a temptation to prefer the self-interest, right? So when you choose that I will stay in Russia, and deep inside the emotional reason is self-interest, because you want to be close to the regime, or you feel you're making money, then you can rationalize this. Then you can rationalize it. So then your mind acts like the press secretary of your executive decision. What do I mean by that? It's also in the book. Great books by Jonathan Haidt, The Righteous Mind and The Happiness Hypothesis. Great books as to how we choose a certain course of action based on some criteria like, as I said before, power, influence, and then we come to rationalize using ethical language and so on. So you choose based on your self-interest, and then you find a story or a narrative that has an ethical spin that explains or justifies your choice. So the people who stay in Russia, for example, I'm not saying that all of them are like that. Some of them may genuinely believe that, for example, Putin is correct. But many of them, I'm sure, have decided based on self-interest, and they then rationalized, finding a narrative in favor of Russia against Ukraine. It can be the story about the expansion of NATO. It can be that Putin was pushed, whatever. So they find a story that that matches or that decorates the decision to stay. So, but if I'm not evading the question, I think the answer will be that it's always the same values. I don't think they change. So if you are greedy and you want to stay, you'll stay and you'll find a story that is a narrative that is, you will never say, I'm staying because of money. You must be stupid to say, I'm staying because I want to make more money. So you'll find a story that will actually even convince yourself, because people are very, we are very capable of even convincing ourselves of lies. I give you an example.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let's say that I don't like you. Perhaps I don't like you because you are speaking the truth to me and you are pointing out my flaws. Not because you are not a good person, but because every time I'm with you, I'm triggered because you are too straight and you trigger me. I decided that I don't like you, and I find a story. Yannis is, I'll find a story that will justify me not liking you. I will not say I'm weak. I'm too weak to confront you, I will find a story that he's mean, he's rude, he's tactless. Then I will hear about the story. You see, there is this story that he mistreats his employees. Yeah. I will say yes, it's true. I will try to denigrate you. So my mind will act as the secretary of my body, who is afraid of you because you're speaking truths to me that make me feel uncomfortable, and will build a story to convince me that it's your fault that I cannot stand you. It's not my own weakness to stand the truth.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the Jonathan Haidt's book, the righteous mind. The righteous mind is a mind that always finds, the mind which acts like a lawyer of the self, and that justifies whatever the self does, so that the self does not feel inferior. It builds stories. So we are very easily. So the people who stayed in Russia, I'm not saying that they're lying to others also. Perhaps they're also lying to themselves. They found a story, because they are greedy. They found a story that they believe in. Yes, no, it's Putin is the right. You see, so it's exactly this idea, the righteous mind.
What's happening in Cyprus now? Have you followed the tax system development?
Yes, you're following, huh?
Are you?
Perhaps you are following more than me. But there was an overhaul of tax changes, the first time since 2003 or 4 that was so big in scope.
So what happened?
What happened is that they abolished. Okay, I'll tell you a few of the changes because some of them are too technical. First of all, we went from 12.5% corporate tax to 15%. This is pillar 2 something, I think, the minimum.
Yes, minimum global.
I know the terms. So the first one is that one. But anyway, Cyprus offers deductions, exceptions, so there are ways to mitigate that. Then they reduced the taxation on dividends from 70% to 5%, I think, for holding companies and companies. They abolished deemed distribution for Cypriot tax residents. This is not relevant to foreign investors. Deep distributions basically tax hold companies which did not distribute profits to avoid tax, and they deemed that they distributed profits and they taxed them. They did some changes in property law so that when you offer land to a developer to build it and give you back a flat, for example, what do you call them in English? Exchange? No, I think exchange. So you give your land plot. I have a land plot, and I don't know what to do with it. You are a developer. I transfer the land plot to you, and when you build a building, then you give back to me the number of flats whose value matches the land plot.
Okay.
So there was a problem there because for me to give you the land plot, I had to pay capital gains tax because it's a disposal of property, which if I inherited it, maybe I don't have money to pay capital gains tax. Yep. And then wait for 3-4 years to get a flat and then sell it. So now they changed it so that I don't have to pay capital gains tax but these are
exchange,
what else? They cancelled the special defense tax on rent, and they enhanced substantially the enforcement powers and tools of the tax commissioner. So that it was a very clever move by the tax commissioner. What the tax commissioner did is that he gave some new incentives for tax planning, for budgeting and so on, but at the same time he strengthened a lot the anti-avoidance tools that they have to go after taxpayers. So it's but I would think primarily this affect local taxpayers, not so much people who use intermediary Cyprus companies, because the local companies are charging too many expenses, entertainment expenses. They are doing a lot of tax optimization locally. Okay, so you have tax benefits, improvement of tax rates except for the corporate tax rate due to the Pillar 2, and substantial enhancement of the powers of the tax commissioner to do tax audits and to collect and to challenge the books of companies on the basis of what he thinks are excessive.
Okay.
I'm not sure I did a very fair summary. I'm sure there are many more changes.
What were those excessive powers of those commissioners?
He has more
with
now.
A pistol?
No. Anyway, but these are all, listen, there is a lot of tax planning that requires proper investigation. It's not as if everyone is an angel and is not doing dodgy things. One example that came to mind recently and is why it's quite interesting is that I think the tax commissioner, that's from before, not now, has the power to act as a land surveyor when it comes to selling shares in a company that has property in Cyprus. So if I have a company with a land plot in Cyprus and I sell the shares to you, and we both bring a land surveyor for an appraisal, and let's say my land surveyor says it's 1 million, your land surveyor says 1.2, and we agree 1.1 to sell you, okay? Then so there is a market. They check nearby land plots, prices, but the tax commissioner has the power to say no, the value of the land is 2 million. So the land, he can, I hope I'm not saying something wrong now to be in trouble, but I think that he has the power to determine when there is a company, though, not a direct. If I sell you the land plot, he relies on the land valuations. But if I sell you the shares of a company that has a land plot, then he can say, no, the value of the shares is 2 million, even if it's just the... other things with the expenses now, I think the tax commissioner has the power to impose a tax if there are excessive expenses that shouldn't have been put in the books. So he can introduce a tax there, which I think will be interesting for people now, and perhaps it will open the road to some housekeeping projects, because many companies...
It sounds quite usual, nothing fancy.
No, but I think that the penalties are higher now. Yes, that's what I was trying to think. So the penalties for non-compliance and for the interest, the penalties are higher now. Overall, I think it's a good package.
What is happening with the holding regime? Is it changing somehow, or still?
It's not changing, but the challenge with the holding regime is that, at least insofar as the double tax treaties or the EU parent sub directive application are concerned, and as you probably know already, it's now much more important to have substance, so management and economic substance in Cyprus. You can no longer have, I think, a box file. You appoint a lawyer as a director, as a secretary, as a registered office, and you pay 2,000 a year, and that's it. So this will most likely be looked through by either an underlying country where you have the source of profits, or the top company receiving the dividends, if the top company is in a country that has higher dividend tax. So now it's not as if it's not manageable, but now Cyprus companies, they have to employ people, I think. So you cannot be a company without payroll. You have to employ a couple of people. You have to employ, I think, at least one or more paid directors who will have expertise in, if it's a shoes factory, perhaps you need someone with retail experience, for example. If it's a fintech company, you need to have somebody who is a financial advisor. So, but it's maybe for you it sounds very common sense that these are now the things that we are stating the obvious. Because if there is an audit and you need to submit documents about the holding company, you have to have the file ready. You're paying social insurance. You have, I think you also have to, now you also have to register holding companies with the Ariadne. Ariadne is the portal of the Cyprus government that regulates all citizens and companies. So even in the holding companies which were considered to be part of the international structures concerning Cyprus, now they are complying more and more with what the local companies are doing. You have to register with the local chamber of commerce. You have to have an office, pay for the lease, so as to be able to defend a possible challenge to the tax residency certificate. So it's not enough to, in the old times, maybe you remember, you set up a company, 2,000 euro, 2,000 annual fees per year, you get the tax residency certificate, you submit it to Russia or Ukraine or whatever, and you get the reduced withholding tax. I think it's not enough now.
Yeah.
It's not enough. That tax residency certificate, it's fragile, which is good because lawyers can do more work. So if I make a company for you, so I incorporate a company for you, then I find you an employee, I draft the employment contract, I register the employee with the social insurance, I find him a flat, perhaps I do the rent agreement with him. See, maybe it's better for me as a lawyer. But for you, who are now comparing as a client, as an investor, who are now looking at costs and going to say, okay, Cyprus now is not a 2K project per year, it's a 10K project per year. So why should I go to Cyprus and not to Luxembourg? You see, it started this conversation because I came to Cyprus when it was 2-3K per year to maintain a holding company.
Now, maybe in Luxembourg it will be not 10 but 20. And,
maybe it's 20. So maybe 10 is okay. Maybe Malta is less. So now the business development game changed. Cyprus is not as appealing as it used to be. Now you have to sell the whole package. Cyprus, the lifestyle, the other non-law and non-tax features. Which is great. It makes sense. Limassol, when you come to Limassol, you'll see that it's amazing. It's a great place. Beautiful. So it's not Monaco, Orlando, don't get me wrong. People who love Monaco and London will never come to Cyprus. But for their sidekicks, for the people who run their businesses, who are a bit lower in terms of high net worth status, Cyprus is perfect. So I may not bring the super. I may not bring the super rich person in Cyprus, but I can bring the people who are serving him or her. You see what I mean?
Let's stay on that note, maybe we'll do next episode in Cyprus where we are playing golf or whatever. But thank you for your time, Philippos, and for your wisdom and for your thoughts from the book. And I will ask for autograph afterwards, after we're finished. And here is a small gift, also the mug from the Tax Stories. It's only to my guests of the podcast, so thank you for that. And at the end of the podcast, there's still the same question: do you have your now different version of meaning of life? Why do you do what you do?
I think it's a decision. What you want to do in life is a decision. It's a risk because it's like a gamble. Whatever you choose, is at the expense of everything else that you left out. So if life is like a game where you have to make the right choice, think of it as a challenge. You have to make the right choice as to how to live, what to do, what kind of life to live, what kind of person to be. Whatever you choose, you have to let go of everything else. Maybe you can switch between different things, but I think that will not give you a stable life. So whatever you choose, it's at the expense of everything else that you have left out. I think that you should choose as early as you can who you want to be and what you want to do. Stick with it, and do the best you can to manifest them. I think that's the best way to summarize what I did and what I do. So choose what really matters to you. Let everything else die or go, and serve those things that you value most at the best of your powers. I think that's and the adventure and the challenges and the struggles that will come will be inevitable, but those will give you meaning. Those will give meaning to your life, into the specific type of life that you chose to live. So it's a niche. You have to niche.
Fantastic. Philippos, thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you. And for those who are willing to buy the book, I will put a link in the show notes, so that and also to your webpage, so people can find you afterwards if they wish.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy about this invitation. Thank you, Yanis.
Thank you, Philippos.
Thanks.